And it's easiest if you turn it on first and then
put it on.
Put it on, yeah. Hey, you. That looks pretty good. All right. All right. And remind me, any dog reactivity?
Just whenever a dog goes by, all of this stands up.
Goes up? Okay, cool. But no like lunging, barking?
She does bark from time to time.
Okay. Because we've not seen it because at the facility, she's anxious, but she's chill. Just so I know to keep an eye out for dogs for you.
Okay.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to find that working number for Picnic here, sorry. Mind blank for a moment for Picnic. So we have the three numbers. We have connection, perception, and working. Connection is like she's staring at a dog and you see the twitch, but like she doesn't care. Perception would be you see the twitch and then she starts to kind of look around. And then working number would be the twitch and then like a bigger like, whoa, what was that? Okay? So we want the whoa, what was that? Because that's what's going to make the training very effective right off the bat. What's our number currently set at?
I only had it at 0.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go. We'll go to 10. Typically, dogs don't feel it's about 10 to 15. And we're going to look at Picnic. And when I say tap, you're going to press that bumpy button, okay? Okay. There we go. And we're going to look at Picnic. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, so that would be perception. Let's go to 15. Okay, and tap. There we go. Tap. See how you got a bigger response there? That's our working number. Okay. So here, we're going to start with that, and we can adjust as we go along. The reason why we want that working number is that's what's going to get us to override anything in the environment that Picnic might be uncomfortable with. That working number may change depending on what's going on in the environment. We like working at Oz because it's fairly busy, and this isn't even as busy as Oz Park can get. So pretty realistic for most people. Okay. Today's exercise is essentially what's going to teach her how that turns on, how it turns off. It's going to be a very simple exercise, and the foundation for like, because I know when you first got her, she was really anxious, but now she's kind of warmed up to the neighborhood a bit. Like she's more relaxed now because she's used to that. But I would assume if you go into like a new environment or so, does she like reset a bit? Will she get anxious or? Yep.
It's interesting, even just looking at the videos, you know, that you all post, how she's doing a doggy daycare. She's around dogs, she's fine, but it's something about when I walk her, where she, you know, is more on guard.
Correct.
Or, you know, cares more, I guess, about other dogs.
Correct. A couple of things or factors are, one, when she's with you, you give her something to protect. Okay. Now, right now we're at Oz, and like you and I know that these are just other people enjoying the park, and there's people playing with their dogs off leash and playing tennis and stuff. It's community, right? But for dogs, it's not seen that way. Okay, it's more so, and it depends on, like, some dogs are just happy-go-lucky, love everyone, love everything, and they don't perceive threat. Dogs in the middle perceive threat until they kind of get comfortable with the person, and some dogs just perceive threat. Okay, so like if a dog charged my dogs off leash, my dogs are social. My dogs will perceive threat. So it's kind of like if you're walking on the sidewalk and someone's just running straight at you, I would think your first response would be like, why are they running straight at me? Am I in danger? Right? And then you have to read the situation, and maybe they're going, run, there's a fire. Then you go, oh, they're not charging at me. They're telling me, get out of here, right? Or you might read the situation, you find that perhaps they have a weapon in their hand, and then you're like, uh-oh, this is a bad situation, right? Dogs are very similar, but, you know, in their world, they don't have weapons and things like that. So it's just whenever something's charging at them, it's perceived as a threat. Or the energy they give, so like the dog that walked by right here was kind of pulling and stuff. That energy was more so what she was disagreeing with. Okay, so as we go along, I'll break these things down for you, so you can better understand how she perceives the world, because it's a balance of acclimating her to what the human world is like, but then also you understanding how she perceives the world now, because this is not meant to be here. We're not meant to have a porta potty and a tennis court and houses and cars and vehicles. It's meant to be grass and trees and hills and mountains and swamps and stuff like that. Okay, so we've changed the world drastically, and for some dogs it's unsettling. Okay, so we just got to help her adapt to the world the way it is. Okay, any questions?
No.
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you the exercise. It's a very simple exercise. There we go. It's a very simple exercise, and what we want to do here is I train dogs to walk on the left. You okay with that?
Oh, that feels so weird.
Does it? Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
You're right-handed? Okay. So it's typically easier if you're right-handed to train to the left. If you want to train on the right, that's fine. You'll just have to remind me that she's trained on the right.
Okay. So you want me to try on the left?
It's up to you. You just have to remind me,
Okay.
because I'll forget.
Let's do the right.
The right? Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a picnic on the right. Is every time she gets ahead of you, you're going to be making a 180 turn immediately to your left, like this. Okay? So if I say turn, you're just going to go straight back like that. Turn, just like that. Wait, wrong way, because she's so to the left, like this. Okay? So if I say turn, you're just going to do this straight back. So you should technically keep to a line. Okay? If you're constantly going 180 to the opposite way, you shouldn't really be anywhere else on the sidewalk. Okay? Now when you're doing this, I'm also going to say tap. Tap means to press that button. Okay? So we're walking with picnic, and she gets ahead. I would say turn, you would turn, and I would say tap, 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 until she comes to your side. Okay? She's going to pass again. I would say turn, tap, 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 until she comes to your side. Okay? Now when we do this, you're going to want to have a slack leash, because you want Picnic to have the space and the opportunity to make mistakes, so that we can teach her what she's to do. Okay? We end up giving a little more. A little more. That's a good first start. And sometimes you might find that she might pull towards your left side. If that happens, you're going to keep walking and pull to your right. As you're pulling, you'd also be tapping until she comes to your right side, and then we would relax. Okay? So I'm going to coach you through all this, but that's the very simple idea. Is I just want you to get used to when Picnic passes, you're going to immediately left turn. You're not going to do this. A lot of people do this. That's a rounded turn. Okay? You want to do an immediate 180. Since she's ahead of you, you're going to go this way. Okay? And I'll coach you with the tapping. You can use the leash for some direction. However, you want to refrain from using it too much in order to control her. Okay? So we'll go ahead and step on the sidewalk here. And what you're going to do is go ahead and turn to your left here on the sidewalk and forward, tap, relax your arm. Hug a little bit to the left so she could be on the sidewalk. There you go. Now turn, tap, turn, tap, tap, turn, tap, tap, turn, tap, tap. Good, good turns. Let's go to 18. And if you land on like 19, 20, or 17, that's fine, just general range, okay? And then give the slack. Good, and turn to your left. Okay, keep walking. Turn, tap. Turn, tap, tap. Good. Turn, tap. Let's go and give her a little bit more slack. There you go, that's good, that's real good. There you go, turn, tap, tap. And turn to your, there you go, good, now forward. Turn, tap, tap, good job. Better, turn, tap. Excuse me?
Sorry, I messed up on that one.
No, you're okay. Oh, did you turn the wrong way?
Yeah.
Turn, tap, tap. Good. Good. Now slow turn here. Tap forward. Move forward, tap. There you go. Tap, 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 tap. There she goes. Go ahead and hug on the sidewalk a little bit to your left to give her some space. There we go. Now turn, tap, tap. Good. And we're going to go to 21. Yep, and forward. Turn, tap. Good. Turn, tap, tap, tap. Good. Turn, tap. Now slow walk here. And slower. And stop. Okay. So she's like 60% right now. Okay. Can you see there was a subtle change in what you're doing right now? What was that?
She wasn't getting ahead of me.
Yeah, she's starting to walk a bit more beside you and looking at you and kind of matching your pace a bit. So we started at 15, 18, now we're at 21. Is we're playing with the number to find at what level is she gonna be super mindful of what you're doing, okay? So like, let's say 21 was the perfect number. Her left shoulder would be right here at your right leg, okay? So if take one little step forward, up, she moved ahead. So, yeah, she would be left shoulder to your right leg. Okay, so, and the reason why that slack leash is so important is because if you shorten it and she's walking beside you because you're making her, because you're not allowing her to make the mistake of getting ahead of you, okay? So what we're doing is when you're turning and you're remoting, you're telling Picnic, hey, you're going the wrong way. So when she turns around, she sees you going the opposite way. So then she catches up and then she passes again and you start remoting and you go the opposite way. So then she starts to think, man, every time I feel this, mom is going the other way. Does that make sense? So then she starts to look to you and follow your lead as opposed to being ahead of you. Most people, when they do remote or prong collar, will punish the dog for getting ahead. And then when they come to their side, they'll say heel, but they'll keep walking in the same direction. Okay? So the dog can't connect those things because every time they look at you, they're like, what was that for? Because we're going the same way. But here, if I correct her and she turns around, she's like, oh, mom's going that way. She catches up and then it stops. So then she thinks, man, every time I'm next to mom's right leg, everything goes away. Okay, so we're trying to condition her to recognize that right here at your right hip is a pocket that she wants to be in. And then we use that reference to get her to override the stress of the environment. So like if we had dog reactivity or if she was really anxious in a new environment stuff, the more you expose her in a controlled sense, the faster she gets over those things. Okay? Questions so far about this?
No.
Okay, we're gonna keep repeating. We're gonna keep it at 21. And we're gonna do, your turns are good, you're doing them perfectly, you're doing the immediate pivot, the taps are all good. Now we just gotta figure out what's the number that's gonna get Picnic to really kind of just lock into you, okay? Whenever you're ready, go ahead and move forward. Turn, tap, tap. There we go, good girl. Good. Go ahead and turn to your, yep, tap forward, and then back on the sidewalk. Good, and turn, tap, and let's go to 24. Okay, and then, yep, now go ahead and turn, tap, yep. You're fine.
Rocky, fetch. Rocky, fetch. Fetch, Rocky. Rocky.
And go ahead and turn to your, pivot to your, there you go. So she's back on your right. That's fine. There you go. And then pivot again to your left. And now you're back. Yep, tap. And forward. Good. Turn, tap, tap. There we go. That's a better number. Good. Turn, tap. Now I'm gonna have you walk slow. Keep forward though, keep forward, slower. And stop. There we go. Now where's Picnic?
Right beside you.
Exactly. So this was what we were trying to achieve earlier. And that's why I said earlier, I was like, you're like at 60%, 65%, right? Mm-hmm. Now we bumped it to, we went 21, 24. Is that it? Yep. 24. So that, just that slight increase from 21 to 24 was enough of a boost to get Picnic to think, ooh, like I need to be more mindful, okay? So every dog's number is different, okay? I don't ever know what it's gonna be coming in. The personality type doesn't matter. So like, Picnic is a more so insecure, nervous, anxious personality type, not very confident, right? Doesn't mean her number wouldn't be high, okay? Because that's what people tend to go by. They're like, oh, the dog's so insecure, like it's gonna be a low number, but dogs are physically tough. They, you know, so it would be an emotionally weak dog, but a physically tough dog. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when, right when you did your first turn, I said, oh, right, that's a good number, is when you tapped her at the 24, I don't know if you could see it, but from my perspective, she was like, whoa. And she was moving very quickly to your side. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that quickness, that speed was urgency. That speed was, I need to fix this quick because I don't want another tap to kick in. Okay, so that urgency that you're creating is what's gonna make her more so worried about you than she is about the environment. Okay, so when I deal with dogs that have dog reactivity, which would be lunging and barking at dogs, most people would think we punish the reactivity. And instead I go, how about we teach them how to walk correctly with no tension in the leash and make it very important to them, like, you know, using power, that the stress of another dog walking by doesn't faze them, okay? Because I'm more important than what's going on within the environment, okay? And that fixes the reactivity a lot of times. I do get cases where it doesn't work that way, but that's a different thing. For the most part, whenever I come in, I go, let's teach the dog how to walk correctly, let's put some discipline in the brain, and at the appropriate number, make it very urgent, and see what does that fix, okay? So that's what we're doing here with Picnic. Also the physicality of it. You know, dogs toughen up their puppies by bullying them and poking at them with their noses and biting and nipping at them. That's how they toughen each other up. So, you know, if most of the time when people get their puppies, they don't do this with their puppies. You know, they spoil them or they put them in timeout and stuff, which doesn't work for them. Dogs are physical. Is that this is how we start to toughen her up to handle the world the way it is, okay? Because now we're talking her language. Now in the beginning, because I can already see some shaking here, and like she's dipping her head here, is because of the remote, okay? The remote and the environment, because now she's got two stressors. She's got the e-collar, and then she got the environment, right? But eventually, once she learns how the e-collar works, she's like, oh, she's like, this isn't so bad. Like, I know how this operates, I know how it turns on, I know how it turns off. But then, since she was so focused on you, she's taking in the environment and like kind of going like, oh wow, like I've been in this area and like there's been nothing to stress out about. Does that make sense? Like you're getting her to focus on one thing, but at the same time she's dealing with something else and then realizes like, oh crap, like there's nothing to be super anxious about. Exactly. Okay. So this is good. So we're gonna do that a few more times. Now for you, I want you to learn to start recognizing when to do those turns on your own, okay? So our general guideline is her left shoulder to that right leg, okay? So that's what I was watching for. So anytime I saw her not lined up with you, exactly, that's when you're just doing that immediate pivot with an immediate tap, okay? There's no words here because we're trying to get her to focus on you by default, okay? So people will say like turn or like, heel or left or whatever, and I don't do any of that stuff. We say heel, but that's later. Everything is default. Is that Picnic, once you give the cue or once you start the process, she should just go into that level of focus without any need for words. The other stuff we do through body language, okay? Like communicating that we're turning left and right is all done through body language. So like right here, if you were walking, right when she got ahead, that would be the moment that you pivot, okay? So I'm gonna have you go ahead and do just a walk back and forth here. Now, if Picnic is doing well going in one direction, you can keep going, but then what you would do is once you feel like you've gotten far enough, and I'll limit you between these two poles here, is you're gonna slow down and then slowly turn, okay? If Picnic is turning with you, you're good, you don't need to do anything. Otherwise, if she gets ahead, you would just continue that turn and tap to lock her in and then go back to your normal pace, okay?
So you want me to tap on my own?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime you feel like you need to correct her and reposition her, you'll be doing the tapping. And you're gonna do that with the immediate left turn, going the opposite way, okay? Hey, you. Whenever you're ready. Right, good. Good. Right, good job. Good. Good turn. Good. Good turn. See how she turned with you there? Good. So keep forward. This is all good. Keep forward. This is good. And you're going to slow some more. Now stop. Okay? This is okay. So we lost her a little bit, but that's fine. All those were correct. Okay? Now what we're going to do is I'm going to have you change your pace. Okay? So right now you're walking at a slower pace to get her to, be mindful. And then, you slow down more till you come to that stop. What I'm going to have you do is start picking up your pace. Okay? So even if you're walking quick or slow, Picnic should be matching your speed. Okay? So if you're walking quickly and you slow down, Picnic should slow down with you. Otherwise, if you see her get ahead of you, you would then go into that turn and tap. We're also going to bump it. We're at 20, what now? 24?
Yes.
Let's go to 26. And whenever you're ready, go ahead. Yep, good. Right, good. This is all good. Keep going. Good. Going to pick up your speed. Correct. Good job. Tap, 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 tap. Because she got distracted by that scent. Go ahead and speed up here. And you're going to slow. Yep, keep forward, slow. And slower. And stop. Better. Okay? So, questions about this so far? Correct. So I use heel. I use it the next class because what people, since we're so sound based, is we tend to control, or people tend to control dogs or try to control dogs using the words, right? Right. She doesn't know what heel means. We associate what the word heel means. Okay. So once we get this to the degree that I want it to be in terms of the tightness and her focus and stuff, then I start to use the word, because that becomes heel. If it's like a lot of turning still, and then you say heel, then it's heel, but it's still a lot of turning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's more of a regular.
Correct. I want consistency. I want to make sure I get as close to 100% association with the dog as possible before I title anything. Okay? And heel's the one that takes the longest. Every other command we usually incorporate it by the end of the session. But when I used to do heel in the first class, almost always I would come back and the owner would be saying heel, 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 and they weren't turning or using the remote, and they were trying to use the word to control the dog. And I'm like, why are you saying heel if the dog's not doing it? They're like, oh, I thought the dog knew it. I'm like, no. I'm like, you have to reinforce with the remote. Okay, so that's what we're doing now. So if I remove that word, it forces you to have to use the remote and the turning to get her to get back into position. Okay? Other questions?
And so the e-collar only for walking, correct?
Currently, yes. Yeah. Right now, you'd only be using it for walking. I wouldn't use this for anything we have not covered. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say you're walking and she's on her free time, and maybe she's trying to like eat goose poop. As long as you're holding the leash, you can use the collar to stop the behavior. Mm-hmm. Okay? I wouldn't use it like if she were to be off leash, because my concern would be if you remote her too high and she's off leash, she's gonna run off, because we've not done recall yet. Okay? But as long as she's on the leash, so like e-collars, it can do two things. E-collar can teach behaviors. It's like right now we're teaching the heel. Okay? But it can also stop behaviors because it's an aversive. So, you know, if I was like trying to sneak cookies, my mom would like whack my hand. Like that was the aversive, like, no, you can't have any cookies, right? So here for her, the aversive is the contraction. So if she's on her own time but doing something you disagree with, as long as she's on a leash or within an enclosed area, it's okay to use to stop the behavior. Okay? So like maybe, let's say you're inside your apartment and she's like barking out the window and you want her to stop barking out the window, you could remote her for barking out the window. Okay, because you're just stopping the behavior, but since you're within your home, you're not worried about Picnic running away. Right. Okay, now once we cover the recall and stuff, it doesn't matter, because now we have a means of getting her to return. Okay, for the walks, smaller chunks is easiest. So if you do 3 20-minute walks, that would be ideal, or like 2 30-minute walks is fine. Because every time, like right now when we stop and we take a break, Picnic is actually processing everything that just happened. Okay, so then each time it should get you ideally find her getting better and better. okay? Because she's getting time to think about it, kind of like what just happened, and then you pick up, and then she's like, okay, like this is the same thing, okay? If all you have is 1 solid hour to like work with or walk with Picnic, that's fine as well. It's just if you did 1 hour a day, like in full, it would just take longer for her to process, okay? Since it's not repetitive, you know, if Picnic is doing great and walking at your side, you would just keep walking. You're only doing those pivots when Picnic is not at your right hip, okay? So like each walk should get progressively better. You know, like earlier it was like a bunch of turns very quickly, and then we play with the number, and then each time you've picked up and picked up again, it's been less and less frequency of the turns, and you're able to cover more ground, right? Now, even though the environment may be distracting, it's not realistic in the sense that you wouldn't be going back and forth within, you know, 50 feet. You would be going from point A to point B back to point A, right? So now when you go for your walks are your training, okay? So I go out, I go with Picnic, I give her her potty break first, I let her pee and poop, do her doggy business, and then once you're ready, you would tap and start walking and get her back to your hip, okay? Before you do that, sorry, I skipped a step. So she would pee and poop, do her business, you're like, okay, you're ready. Then you'd want to find your working number, okay? 10, 15, 20, you find that number that gives you a fairly big response. Now that she's had some training with it, you would most likely see her kind of gravitate to your right side because of all the walking, okay? So if you see that, then I go, okay, you know, 21 is my working number to start. Then you start your walk. And let's say you're gonna walk to the park, and it takes you 20 turns before you get to the park. It tells me that 21 isn't enough to get her to hold, you know, the positioning. I go to 24, and then maybe 24 becomes 10 turns. So it's much better than 20, but it's still 10 turns every walk. Then I go to 27, right? You're trying to find the number that once you get it, it's like, man, I've only had to turn like once in the last 20 minutes. Or like, it's been days since I last turned. You're seeing a bigger gap between every correctional turn because she's associating like, okay, when I feel this, I'm on mom's hip and I want to stay on that hip, otherwise the remote goes off, okay? So it's really like just like a science experiment. You know, you're just playing with the number all the time. Don't get married to a number. It can change, you know, and it can change because of the weather. Maybe you take her out and there's like a storm. You know, if that bothered her, then your number would be higher, possibly. Maybe you walk to the park and like someone's setting off fireworks at the park. Your number could be higher there because you have to override the fireworks, you know. So Picnic will tell you what's too much and what's too little, okay? So like, when she stopped to sniff over there by that pole, and I was like, tap, 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 it took a few taps before she responded. And that's because the distraction of whatever that scent was really engaged her brain that it overrode the current number that you were at. So like if it was the appropriate number for the situation, you would have seen her, boom, right away, go to your leg. But it took about, you know, 4 to 5 taps before she like got up and walked over. Okay, so that told me, yeah, we had connection, we got her to disengage, but it took a few taps before she actually did so, okay? So my general rule of thumb is if I don't get a change by the first tap or by the third tap, I bump the number, okay? So that's why earlier when we were finding her working number, we went tap, 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 bump, tap, 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 bump, okay? So I do the same thing with my turns. Consider each turn like a correction. So if you did turn, turn, turn again, then that tells me the number that I'm working at is not enough. Then I go up, turn, 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 not enough, bump it, right? And I keep repeating that, and then you'll find you'll do a turn, and now you're walking nonstop. Then I look at it, oh, 35. 35 is the number that's making her stick to me, and I haven't had to turn for 5 blocks, okay? So if I get a considerable change with that number, then I just think this is it for now, okay? Unless I come to a point, maybe you're in a new environment where it's busier, and then you go to turn, turn, turn again because of the change of environment, then you'd bump, okay? Questions?
No, it all makes sense. Now, when she gets hyper aroused, like, you know, when she sees other dogs,
Sure.
how would I use it in the same way?
Sure.
Like how,
So what you'll do here is let's go ahead and get Picnic back to your right side. So go ahead and, there you go. Yeah. And then if you need more direct or immediate control, you can choke up on your leash so that you're closer to the collar, because that'll allow you to move her more directly. Okay.
Wow,
And
look at you just sitting down automatically.
so what we would do is what I'm gonna have you do now is you're gonna go into the heel again. You're gonna do a couple of turns, and you're gonna come to a stop. And when you come to that stop, you're gonna choke up on your leash, okay? And you're gonna lightly pull up, and you're gonna tap on the remote to see if it puts her in a sitting position, okay? And then from there, I'll explain to you how we use this to work with, to help control arousal, okay? Good. Now here, do a slow walk to a slow turn. There we go. Nothing here. Good. Forward. Then you're gonna slow down some more. Slow. Now here, lightly pull up yep, up and tap right there and praise. Good girl. Okay. So what you're gonna do here is I'm gonna have you to repeat that 4 more times. Okay. So you're gonna give your slack back. There you go, perfect. You're gonna start walking again. Yep, good job. Now slow walk to slow turn here. Yep, nothing here because she's turning with you. Then slow to a stop. Then up, tap, and praise. Good girl.
Good girl.
Repeat that 3 more times. Good job, good turn. Good, and slow down to a stop. There you go, and praise. We're gonna do 2 more, and on this one I'm gonna have you do a little bit more of a stretch, then slow down to a slow turn, and then come to a stop, and here, tap for the sit. There you go, good. And forward. All right, and then slow to a slow turn. Good. Nothing here because she turns with you. Then you're gonna slow to a stop. Tap, 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 tap. There you go. Right there. Okay, we're gonna accept that for now, that she's in front of you, okay? Because I just want her to learn to put that butt down. The reason why she was jumping on you was because she was getting frustrated, she was seeking comfort. So then I just tap to correct it till she removes herself, and then I move on to what I was doing, the next thing I was gonna do, which was have her sit, okay? We'll do 1 more. Good. Good, now slow. Then stop. Good. Up, tap, 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 tap. Up on the leash, tap, 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 tap. Almost, wait a moment. Yep. And up on the leash again. There you go. And relax and pet and praise.
Good job.
Good, and we're gonna pause right there for a second. Okay, so frustration again. So whenever she jumps on you, I don't say anything. I keep what I'm doing, so it's just stationary. And then when I said up was to help her remove herself a little bit more quickly. So we're not saying anything, we're just up and then tapping till she removes herself, okay? So super important that Picnic removes herself. Most people tend to move or like push the dog off or pull the dog off. You're doing all the work. So it's gonna keep happening. So when you make her make the decision, she's thinking, okay, I can give in to this comfort-seeking behavior, but then this is gonna happen. This is gonna go off and it's not gonna stop going off until I remove myself. So then she learns to contain herself, okay? Because she's seeking comfort from the remote, okay? So I'm using the things she's seeking comfort from to actually get her to stop the behavior. So then she's thinking, well, crap. The only way to get this thing to go away is just to be compliant. Okay, so then she starts to get more easy to work with. This is also teaching her like, hey, this is life now. Like, I'm not gonna comfort you. You have to learn to just handle this. Okay, so as humans, you know, like the world has thrown a pandemic on everyone, right? And you can either go like, oh, well, pandemic can't do anything, or I go, all right, pandemic, how do I change my operations to keep my business afloat? You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing for the dog. It's like, look, here's discipline, life has discipline, and you have to learn how to handle it, okay? You're not being mean, you're not being forceful, right? You're actually being patient. And I'm just there. And sooner or later, she's gonna remove herself, and like, let's say she wasn't removing herself, then I just bump it a couple levels. And I bump it again, until I find a number where she goes, man, this is getting to be too much. I'm now gonna remove myself, and I'm not gonna do that again, okay? So the reason why I don't say off or down is because then you end up cueing the behavior, so that technically Picnic can jump on you until you say down. And you're trying to teach her to not jump on you, period, because that automatically turns on. So she thinks the only way to avoid that is just to keep her butt on the ground. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's a very minor thing, but a lot of people do it. And then I was like, that's why your dog keeps jumping on you, because you always say off. I don't say off. I just correct the dog for jumping on me, and then they learn I just don't jump on Jessie. Okay, now if I invite them up, that's fine. But then I would have to have a word, like off, because it would be unfair to just invite them up and then all of a sudden just like correct them. They're not gonna know when I'm done, you know, so I need a word to say, now you can jump. Oh, she's grumbling at that. Yep. Go to tap, lightly pull up, tap, keep that pressure, like that, tap, and then wait a moment, good. Now I'm watching Picnic here, okay, see her mouth is puckering. Yep, there you go. I like that you did that. Now what did you just do there?
Let her know that wasn't okay.
Correct. You corrected her, right? So you went kind of like what I mentioned earlier, she was eating goose food. You would just tap for it because you don't want that behavior, okay? So here, because she continued looking and her mouth was puckering, when you tapped, you simply said, I disagree with what you're doing right now. And then she went from that to looking over here, okay? So I don't care what she does in response as long as it's not in that fight category. So grumbling, growling, staring, hackles up, tension, lunging, barking, all that stuff, that I categorize as fight response, okay? So I go, I don't care what you do, just don't do this. So like, let's say she sees the dog and she decides to do this and give her back to the dog, that would be okay. So she's using avoidance behavior. So we have 4 responses to things. We have fight, flight, avoidance, submission, okay? Reactivity, of course, is in the fight category. So when we're correcting it, then the dog has 3 choices left. That's avoidance, flight, or submission. Flight, you're not gonna get away. They're not gonna get because they're on a leash, they can't run away. So it's either gonna be avoidance or submission. Okay, submission is acceptance. And submission is like, okay, there's a dog coming, I can't lunge at them, I can't run away from them, I'm just gonna accept that this is gonna happen. And then we don't get anything. Okay, avoidance is, you might see her like turn away and pretend the dog's not there, or like give their back, right? So I don't care what she does. What I don't want you to do is, so this is how we would actually address these things, is if I see a dog coming, you know, if I'm on the sidewalk, I step aside on the sidewalk and I put pretzel in that sit position, and then you would shorten your leash, okay? Tap. There you go. Wait a moment. Good. And then you would shorten your leash in case, like, you know, if the dog were to lunge, they're not going to get far because I have the leash tight, or not tight, but short. So you always want, like right here, you have it short, but it's not tight.
It's not tight.
Okay, and that's super important because a lot of times when people shorten the leash, they tighten the leash, and that tightening of the leash can create more tension or reactivity. Okay, so I always want to be nice and relaxed. She's right here. We're facing the dog. So if she decides, I see the dog, I don't like the dog, I'm gonna do this, that's okay, because she chose to do it. What I don't want is that you like go and hide behind a car or something to avoid it, okay? Because then it's you avoiding the issue, as opposed to her thinking about like, okay, I want to bark or growl or something, but I know I can't, so I got to figure out another means of handling the situation, okay? And if nothing happens, if she doesn't growl or whatever, then nothing happens. We don't tap, we don't do anything. Then we start walking, and then she learns, oh, If I see a dog and I don't growl, there's no tap. Okay, so that's how dogs learn, and it's all about repetition. Some trainers, or you might find on the internet, they'll tell you not to step aside and have your dog sit because it's too stressful. That's life. You're gonna be walking, you might turn a corner, there's a dog. You know, you might have an off-leash dog run towards you. Like, that's life. So I'm getting him to handle, like, this is gonna happen, okay? Because you can't avoid it forever. And then she just goes, okay. And if I can't do this, then I'll avoid it. And then eventually avoidance, she might be like, there's no bad experiences. So then she just goes, oh, there's no need for me to be even worried about this because they just walk right past us, okay? Now, everybody's goal is different. Some of my clients have really reactive dogs that stepping aside is their answer forever, okay? Because it gives them the most control. Some of my other clients, their dogs make great progress and they can walk past dogs, you know? Everybody's goal is different. And I go by how the dog is progressing, how the human is progressing, and all that stuff. So, but in the beginning, at this stage, anytime you have it's possible. Yep. There you go. Anytime, yep, lightly up, yep. Good. Is you want to always step aside. Okay, shorten that leash, let it go by. Your responsibility is picnic. It's picnic. So, if I'm watching her, you know, if she's like this, right, staring, you can tap there. Even if she's not being vocal, because you can already see the tension, okay? And you're saying, nope, don't even think about going past that point. Here, when she tried to lay down, the reason why we tapped was to be strict. When heel is walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. So when you're stationary and you're not moving, picnic's job is her butt should be on the ground, okay? So if you allow her to lay down, it becomes gray area. Because then she can decide to lay down, she can decide to stand up, she can decide to growl, she can decide to go, you know, sniff whatever she wants. And heel is very strict. Okay, think of heel as like clocking picnic into work. So like right now I'm clocked into work, I'm not on my phone, I'm not smoking a cigarette, I'm not drinking a beer. I'm working for you, right? So for picnic, when you cue the tap and she's on your leg, at that moment she's working, she's thinking about it. She's working, yep. 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 Light pressure up. There you go. And wait a moment. There she goes. And relax. Good. She's working, and her job is to do what you've commanded her to do. Okay. Now, the off switch is break. Okay. Break means your job is done. So if you're walking a picnic, she's doing a great job, and you see some like park, and you want to give her a break to be a dog. You would walk, she should put that butt down, you wait a moment, break, and then you lead her to the grass. At that moment, she can pee, poop, roll around, sniff the ground, do her doggy thing. She's on her own time. 5 minutes, 15 minutes, you dictate, okay? And then once you feel like you're ready to go, you just start walking, you tap to bring her back to your side, and then at that moment, the exercise starts. Then you'd have to do your turns and stuff if she should get ahead of you, okay? If you walk out of your house and you don't tap or anything, she's on her own time. Okay, she's default on her own time. The moment the e-collar taps and kicks in, then the exercise starts. Okay, so if you don't tap for like 20 minutes, then for 20 minutes, you know, picnic can do her thing. Once we cue the word heel in a week, it'll make things a lot more clear. But she doesn't need the word. Like the tap will let her know, like, now you need to be on my side. Okay? Questions?
So, in our building there are 3 other dogs, and there's been several times where we're walking down the stairs, and the other dog is off.
Oh, well, yeah.
So that's happening pretty frequently. It makes sense for her to react.
Yeah.
But, you know, in situations like that where a dog is possibly coming up and provoking your dog, would it still be the same response?
Does your building have rules?
Yeah.
Are there leash rules?
Yeah.
Okay, I would complain about that because it's unfair to her.
Yeah.
That's why those rules are there. Okay? Now, I'll give you a couple of ways to handle it, and you pick what works best for you. Okay? One is I would either talk to your neighbor and say like, hey, I have a reactive dog. You know, when your dog's off leash, I don't want an altercation to happen. Okay, because if that dog charges her off leash and she defends herself, that's valid. You know, if somebody charged me and I don't know who they are, like, or even if it was like a neighbor and charged me in a threatening manner, I'm gonna defend myself. So that's one thing. Two, utilizing the environment to your advantage if possible. You know, I hate for you to have to accommodate how you leave your building because someone has their dog off leash sometimes. Okay, you shouldn't have to do that. That's why I was on either you tell the building, or you tell the person like, hey, I have a reactive dog. I wouldn't want your dog to charge us, and there possibly being an altercation. You know, you're like, I don't know what would happen, right? So that's the other thing. Otherwise, if it's like you tell the building the person's just being non-compliant, and you've talked to them yourself and they're still non-compliant, then it's alternate routes, I suppose. You know, if you find yourself in a situation where the dog is coming towards you in picnic, and you've already exhausted all the other means, feel free to defend picnic from that dog. Okay, and I mean by kicking. Okay, I've been charged by off-leash dogs here. You know, I have a video on it on my YouTube channel. I have a couple of them, and they're actually even on our. It's probably easier to find on our Instagram. But we've had instances with off-leash dogs here. Now, practicing here, I know we're going to come across that because we're at a park, but there's plenty of space, right? Technically, it doesn't excuse it because you're not supposed to have your dog off-leash outside of a dog park, but I know people are going to do that, right? So, what I always do is put myself in between my dog and the approaching dog, and if the dog is actively charging, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to go well, I'll just straight up kick them, okay, right in the chest to dissuade them from charging, because it's either I kick the dog and keep them at bay, or potentially that dog gets to my dogs go, hey, we think you're a threat, and then it's a dog fight, okay, and there's punctures, and there's sutures, and there's vet bills, and things are much more expensive, and I've had that happen to clients, you know, where their dog was attacked by an off-leash dog or vice versa. You know, an off-leash dog ran up to them, and then their dog defended itself and like tore up the other dog. I'm like, that's why there's off-leash training, or keep your dog in a leash. So, it's unfortunate, but that's how I'd go about it. I'd either talk to the person, talk to the building, and if they're not listening or whatever, and it's like, all right, well, I did that, and if your dog's approaching, like, then I'm going to defend my dog. Okay? You would be perfectly valid in that response. Just so that you know, if that dog ran up to picnic off leash and she did defend herself and bite that dog, she shouldn't be liable because she's on a leash. Okay, that dog's off leash. So I tell that to everybody, you know, when dogs charge me, I'm like, because I have plenty of clients whose dogs are dog aggressive, they're not friendly, and the dog charges them off leash and the dog attacks the other dog. I'm like, I know your dog has issues, but technically that's valid in their world. You know, and according to law, like, as long as your dog is on a leash, you're perfectly fine. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's been happening like every week, and this week I told the lady, I was like, you can pick up your dog. Oh, I'm not going to pick it up. We're going outside. And
Don't matter.
I was like, picnic is trying to make progress with her, you know.
Yeah. Now you can stop picnic's behavior. Okay. So like, let's say the dog is off leash, whatever. You can do the same thing where you stop and remote her, right? And you have her under control. But if that dog charged at you, you're telling her like, hey, you need to behave yourself. And if that threat's coming, you have to step in. Because you're telling her, behave yourself. But then she's like, but the dog is coming right at me. Mm-hmm. So then you go, don't worry about it. Boom. Right? And then she goes, okay, cool. I don't have to defend myself. Mom will. Okay? We have a person with a very long flex leash here with their dog. It looks like he's changing direction. So I've had to do that. I had someone, when I was in Pilsen, I was walking 5 dogs, and one of them was dog aggressive, and this lady turned a corner on Cermak, which is a very busy street, and she had 5 Shih Tzus off leash, and one of them ran straight at me, and I was walking. I just punted the attacking dog, sent it back 4 to 6 feet, kept walking. I didn't apologize. I didn't stop. Shouldn't have. One, it's Cermak. It's a busy road.
Yeah.
You know? And then two, you have 5 dogs off leash and one of them starts charging at me. Like, yeah, like I'm not gonna stop and apologize, have a conversation with you. It's like, get your dog back. Plus I had this dog over here that killed your dog. You know, like people don't think about that stuff. So feel free, if you go on our Instagram, we have a couple of videos that I put up on there about how to, what to do during an off-leash dog encounter, just to kind of give you an idea. But you know, I think people feel like they can't do anything. And when you absolutely can, you know, you're not seeking that out. Like you're trying to avoid the situation, but if they're not being non-compliant, it's either you handle it or Picnic does. That's good. This is all okay. Yep. There we go. And a little bit of, there we go. Right there. So those individual taps weren't enough to get her to fully disengage. So then I had to do tap, tap, tap. And that created intensity without actually having to raise the power. Okay? So this week, expect to see more anxiety. Expect to see more stress because this is all new to her. As you walk with her every time, you're going to see more and more progression, more and more, ideally, relaxation. Every dog's progression is different. Once she learns the concept of e-collar, a lot of this stuff should all just start to settle. Okay? Questions?
No, you answered all my questions.
Good. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Maria should have given you my email.